neue verbinden, Frequenzen suchen und so weiter. Dedans. C'est bon.
Your pre-position and I don't want to push you away. I'm just kindly asking you. Yes. You can just move a little bit 1 meter to the right, and then you will be very close to the host cabin. And the second will be the doorstep right here, so you'll be in the extra. Yeah. Just tell me where you want to be. If that is fine for you, yeah. I'm happy. Yeah. bien quand les drapeaux d'ailleurs. Peut-être un peu plus haut ou ça va encore? Parce que ça a été comme ça.
Hvilke skills er den her? Det er bare ikke rigtig fint. Det kan til at begynde at være der.
Good morning.
Prøv at se delegation for den amerikanske Prøv at se.
Bon, on est aux arrivées avec Marc. Je ne sais pas si sur ce candidat il y a des trucs particuliers.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's your prerogative.
Kamera würde ich dann Stativ platzieren, statt Anschluss. Wenn wir können wir es gemeinsam machen. Das sind hier ziemlich nah. Weiter.
Plus, maybe we could just maybe I'd like to clarify some of this council in Ukraine later, if it's possible.
Is he here? No, so Mark.
Oh, I will. Yeah, it will be about Sweden and where is the state that that's what this one.
sådan at man fortsat kan levere også tunge våben og ikke mindst også ammunition til Ukraine, som de mange sig det.
Bart.
Go on, Frank.
So eine Schärfenverlagerung durch das Kunst. Das wird dann nämlich.
Hätte auch an.
Feel free. Mal später noch mal. Good morning, Minister.
Good morning.
What will you be expecting from NATO allies today?
Может быть, не меньше, не низким. Ты можешь так вот так. Все равно будет слышно. Даже можешь связываться. Ready? Oh, koyayım. Joshua. Genau, ne? Und mit Frank auch noch. War noch das Teil 1. Akku. Ging eigentlich. Ging. Ich habe noch heute angeguckt. Nee. everything goes well. If everything goes well.
I won't be here tomorrow. For sure.
А что могу сказать? Прошу прощения. Пробки были. Сейчас в пробках? Да. Я вот час назад. Что? Вертолет нам был.
Мотоцикл.
Да, кстати, они мотоцикл много не зовут. Недостаточно. Самый длинный. Я один короткий. Попробуешь? Aber muss ich doch Foto machen.
True, and I think Britain is a bad competitor. Here he comes. There's a man in the orange dress.
Ja.
Good morning. Okay, good morning. NATO defense ministers will meet today and tomorrow, and they meet at a critical time. Ukraine has launched a counteroffensive. What we see is fierce fighting. It's still early days, but we also see that the Ukrainians are making gains, and that Ukraine is able to liberate occupied land. This is due to the courage, the bravery, the skills of the Ukrainian soldiers, but it also highlights and demonstrates that the support NATO allies have been giving to Ukraine now for many, many months actually makes a difference on the battlefield as we speak. So one of the main issues we will address is how to sustain and step up the support to Ukraine. That will be done in the meeting of the NATO-Ukraine Commission together with Minister Resnikov, and that will be a meeting that will be preceded by a meeting of the US-led contact group for Ukraine that will meet earlier today. The war in Ukraine just demonstrates the need to stand with Ukraine and to continue to provide support. We will also address how to further strengthen NATO's deterrence and defense as preparations for the upcoming Vilnius summit in July next month, where we will have new regional plans, a new force model, a new force structure, and also address the need to strengthen our pledge to invest more in defense. We expect that the leaders at the summit will agree that 2% of GDP for defense is not something we should strive towards, not a ceiling, but a minimum needed to be invested in our shared security. Then we will also address how to further ramp up production. Because since last fall it has been obvious that this is now a war of attrition, and the war of attrition is a battle of logistics, and therefore we have engaged with the defense industry, and we will have an event here, an informal event where we will meet a small group of defense industry across the alliance, and this is part of our ongoing engagement with the defense industry. We will also agree at the meeting new capability targets for battle-decisive ammunition, and those targets for each and every nation will be significantly higher than the current ones, because we have seen that to provide support to Ukraine, we have depleted the stocks, and therefore we need to increase the targets, produce more, partly to replenish our stocks and partly to be able to continue to provide support. So the new capability targets for battle-decisive ammunition is one important step in ensuring that allies have the sufficient ammunition. We also in NATO have several ongoing projects of joint procurement. This is something we have done for decades, tried and tested the structures. Many of them are facilitated by the NATO Support and Procurement Agency, NSBA, for instance, only just for 155 ammunition, we have ongoing projects facilitated by the NATO Support and Procurement Agency of $1 billion US, and then we have other projects for other types of ammunition, also air defense ammunition. We will also agree. I expect that ministers also will agree to establish a new center for the protection of critical undersea infrastructure. This center will be at our Maritime Command, MARCOM, in the United Kingdom. And then tomorrow we will also meet in the NATO Nuclear Planning Group to address how to continue to ensure that our nuclear deterrent remains safe secure and effective in a more dangerous world. With that, I'm ready to take your questions.
You can say that member states would agree
Sorry,
to
is that, sorry.
Secretary General, from your perspective, as the counteroffensive continues, what should be the priority for the Rammstein group meeting today, and what kind of weapons, what does Ukraine ardently need right now, and do you expect new pledges?
I expect many new pledges, and we have seen just over the last few days both significant pledges from European allies, but also from North America and the United States. I just arrived from Washington, and the United States, President Biden announced just a couple of days ago a significant new package with more ammunition, with more air defense ammunition and other types of military support. And we also have seen from several other European allies over the last days announcing more support. So this is an ongoing process where allies are announcing additional support to Ukraine. Ukraine needs types of support, but perhaps most of the focus will be, or has been and continues to be, on the importance of sustainment, of making sure that all the systems which are already there are working as they should, so meaning that they have the ammunition, the spare parts, the maintenance, the repair capacity to operate and to be sustained throughout the whole offensive. But we will meet with Minister Resnikov, we will be briefed by the military commanders, and then of course the reason of doing this both in the US-led contact group for Ukraine, but also in the NATO-Ukraine Commission, is to have first-hand information and to be able to sit down with Ukrainians to discuss the specific needs.
Yes, hello Stoltenberg. The Danish defense minister will put forward a plan for training of the Ukrainian pilots in the F-16 program. How close are we actually on delivering F-16s or other Western-produced fighter jets for Ukraine? And then secondly, you have just been to the United States. Were you asked then if you could be persuaded to take on a little more time as Secretary General if the member states can't agree on a successor?
First of all, I welcome the decision by several NATO allies to provide a training of fighter pilots. This is important, and it will enable us to, at a later stage, also make decisions to deliver fourth generation fighter aircraft, like for instance the F-16s. And I would like to commend Denmark for playing a leading role to facilitate this agreement and also to offer to provide training for the Ukrainian pilots. This just shows that Denmark is a country that has really played an important role and continues to play an important role in providing significant support to Ukraine. Exactly when decisions will be taken, it's too early to say, but the fact that training has started provides us with the option to also decide to deliver planes, and then the pilots will be ready to fly them. I visited Washington earlier this week, and the main purpose of that visit was, of course, to discuss the preparations for the Vilnius summit. This is part of my regular engagement with leaders across the alliance, and in the meeting with President Biden we discussed deterrence and defense, Ukraine, the need to strengthen our defense investment pledge, and other important issues for the alliance. When it comes to my successor, that is an issue to be decided by the 31 allies. I am responsible for all decisions that this alliance has to take, except one, and that is about my future. That is for the 31 allies to decide.
Thank you. Sweden was negotiating yesterday in Ankara, and at the same time there were some biting comments from President Erdogan. So how should we understand those comments, and is it still possible to have Sweden as a full member in the Vilnius summit?
I welcome the fact that we had a meeting of the permanent mechanism between Finland, Sweden and Turkey, where also NATO participates, in Ankara this week. This was a follow-up of the meeting I had with President Erdogan a couple of weeks ago, where we had good discussions on how to make progress on Swedish accession into the alliance. And President Erdogan and I agreed then to convene the meeting of the permanent mechanism. They met this week, and the meeting took place in a constructive atmosphere, constructive talks, and where they addressed progress and identified also how to continue to make progress, and also agreed to continue to work on how to ensure that we are moving forward on Swedish of the accession of Sweden into the alliance. Sweden has delivered on the commitments Sweden made at the summit in Madrid last year, which is to remove restrictions on arms exports, to strengthen the cooperation with Turkey in fighting terrorism. Sweden has changed it, amended its constitution and strengthened its anti-terrorist legislation. And all of this demonstrates that Sweden has delivered. That has been my message also. At the same time, we need to realize that Turkey has some legitimate security concerns. No other NATO allies has suffered more terrorist attacks. And that's the reason why I also welcome that we are together, sitting there and discussing how to further strengthen the cooperation in fighting terrorism. It is possible to get Sweden in by the Vilnius summit. I cannot guarantee you that that will happen, but I'm still working hard to ensure the accession of Sweden as soon as possible, and therefore also welcome the meeting I had with President Erdogan and the meeting of the permanent mechanism this week.
Sergei Pelesa, Belsa TV, thanks for the question. The question is about NATO statement on the potential nuclear weapon in Belarus. Lukashenko talks about nuclear weapon in Belarus as if it is a fact, and Putin announced that they will deliver this kind of weapon at the beginning of July, just before the summit in Vilnius. What options of reaction to such a step is considered by NATO? Perhaps the deployment of additional defense means to protect allies and countries neighboring Belarus from potential Iskander missiles. Thank you.
So Russia's nuclear rhetoric and messaging is reckless and dangerous, and Russia must know that a nuclear war can not be won and must never be fought. And we are, of course, closely monitoring what Russia is doing. So far, we haven't seen any changes in their nuclear posture that requires any changes in our posture. But at the same time, what we see is part of a pattern where Russia has invested heavily in new modern nuclear capabilities and also deployed more nuclear capabilities, including close to NATO borders, for instance, in the high north. So this is part of a pattern that NATO already has responded to by increasing the readiness of our forces, by increasing the presence in the eastern part of the alliance, and we will continue to closely monitor what is needed and how NATO, Russia is changing their nuclear posture.
General Secretary, you have formally stated that you would end your term, step down as General Secretary after this term, but you're now saying that this decision is not up to you. Does this mean that you're willing to continue for 6 or 12 months?
I'm saying exactly the same as I've said all the time. I have no other plans and no other intention, and I don't have any intention of seeking extension.
Very briefly, concerning the counter-offensive, you mentioned several times that the successful counter-offensive will strengthen Ukraine's position at the negotiation table. Do you think that now there is some common ground for the negotiations, or it may appear in case of counter-offensive?
Well, we don't see any signs from President Putin from Russia that they are actually preparing for peace or any real negotiations. But at the same time, we know that the more ground Ukraine is able to gain through this counteroffensive, the stronger their hand will be at the negotiating table. And we also know that the more successful the Ukrainian counteroffensive is, the more likely it is that President Putin at some stage will realize that he cannot win this war on the battlefield. He has to sit down. Then when that will happen, how it will happen, no one can say that with certainty, but the only thing we know is that if we want a just and enduring peace, then we need to provide the military support to Ukraine, because that's the only way for Ukraine to liberate land and to send a clear message to Moscow that they will know Russia will not win on the battlefield.
Yes, Secretary General, you've been saying that the member states should agree that the 2% of spending should be the minimum. Are you thinking that at some point the member states will set new targets of spending?
Well, part of our preparations for the Vilnius summit, the NATO summit in next month, and also what will be discussed here at the defense ministerial meeting as a preparation for the summit, is the question of strengthening our commitment to invest more in defense. In 2014, we made what we call the Wales Pledge, where we said that we should move towards spending 2% of GDP on defense within a decade. Now this decade has almost passed, and the world has become much more dangerous with a full-fledged war in Europe, but also other threats and challenges. So I expect that when leaders meet in Vilnius next month, they will agree a stronger pledge, an enduring pledge, and a pledge that has to come into effect immediately, not within a decade, and where 2% of GDP for defense is not some kind of ceiling, but a floor, a minimum that we have to reach. But of course, these are now ongoing consultations among allies, so the exact language in that pledge will be agreed at the summit in Vilnius.
Thank you very much, colleagues. That's all we have time for. We'll see you during the day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
CDF მოტოინი წამი ზურგი ჩამომაგდო რა და თვითონ შენ დადგე ის ერთი წამი არ დაგაყენებენ და მიკროფონია ზურგზე ისმება
შეახსენო ხმე მქონა უთხრა Good morning, Minister. Minister, what kind of...
Minister, one question, please.
Ich weiß nicht mehr, wie der heißt. Ja, das kommt drauf an. Also, weil das gibt ja auch von den trotzdem die Sonne stürzt. Ich stand jetzt da hinten irgendwann mal so nach 5 Minuten auf dem Wetter. Das hat man schon gemacht.
Das ist mein.
But
our colleagues in the studio said that the sound was quality.
Das ist mal wie draußen.
That you couldn't understand. Yes, everything.
Good morning, Secretary Wallace. What kind of security guarantees are you willing to give to Ukraine? Welche Sicherheitsgarantien man der Ukraine geben möchte, oder welche Perspektive?
Ah, okay, so later she. Sorry. Right. I'm confused with their work. No, I was confused with operations. Okay.
225. Not 220. That was announced 2 days ago in the mayor, so I don't know.
Thank you very much.
And also tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning,
so we don't know yet where exactly it will happen.
It may not be at the.
Because there's no official.
No, that's true.
Last time
yeah, we've got 10,000.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
We met.
He's a Turkish minister. He's a Turkish minister. He's usually
Say something to tell them they stopped once in the last say something that really gets out of the
That's a question, but Anna stood enough just between me and I. Right below me. Eyesight, couldn't see her. Anyway, there was this question about Sweden anyway. place.
Reaktion für irgendwie Smoken Beitrag.
Ja, das ist
doing it.
Hello, sir.
Good morning.
No, I need some minutes. Yeah, me too, me too.
So nobody's arguing about that. It's just whether we should use the cameras back.
We decided to stay here, so we stay here. So everybody does what he has to do.
Are you in a bed?
Poi farà gleich nochmal. Den Rest macht sie selbst dann. Halt, weil dann noch eine Fahrt.
Ja. Ora, mata magagawa kita komentar. Karena sini kalau terakhir juga tu.
Wait for 1 second, there is one more.
As long as you want the sunshine.
I can stay as long as I want. I don't know. Are you ready for that? We have one more. Are you coming or not? Good. So once again, good morning. We have a very important day today and also tomorrow. I would like to share two topics with you. First, Ukraine, and second, Vilnius summit. First, Ukraine. Definitely at the moment is very, very important to continue the help to Ukraine as the counteroffensive is ongoing. And definitely we all understand what that means. Both sides on the battlefield are having losses, which means that especially our side helping Ukraine is very, very critical, and I'm very happy to see that also we have an agreement with a couple of our allies to announce a new aid package to Ukraine on this meeting today, and I have approved that also in our government, so it's clear that Estonia will continue also the help to Ukraine. Secondly, this also relates to Vilnius, and regarding Vilnius and Ukraine, definitely Estonia sees that the future of Ukraine is in NATO, and we will do everything, of course, to advocate for that, and we would like to see also the next steps made in Vilnius, that we cannot stay only on the messages what were given already in Bucharest. So, but let's see how it goes. Definitely the wording is very, very, very important, how that goes. And now coming to Vilnius summit and NATO, for me it's very important that we can
approve finally the regional plans. We are on the final stage of that. Still some minor details to solve, but definitely we will solve these details among our allies. What is important, that these regional plans have to be implementable or executable by the end of the year, maybe latest by the beginning of the next year, but these plans have to be executed. Also, what is very, very important is that we hope to achieve the agreement of the air defense rotational model, which helps to strengthen the eastern flank of NATO. And the third topic from our side is that we would like to reach a consensus also on the defense investment pledge. Of course, Estonia will advocate for 2.5% because we understand that last 30 years are for Europe a bit difficult to look back because we have not invested enough to our defense. This has led to big gaps in our defense capabilities, and this is why we believe that 2% actually is not enough. So we have to push for more, we have to push for 2.5, and Estonian government has committed for at least for next 10 years to invest 3% additional to that host nation support for our allies. So we will do more, and we will advocate for 2.5, but of course we have to achieve at first 2% for all the countries, because at the moment approximately 1/3 of the NATO members having 2%. So these are the main goals for Vilnius, these are the main goals for today and for helping Ukraine. Please, the questions.
Minister, one question. Now that the counteroffensive has started, how do you assess the situation on the ground, and what are actually the most urgent needs for Ukraine in this moment?
At this moment, first the message that we will continue helping Ukraine, that Kremlin cannot think that West will go away from Ukraine. No, we will continue helping Ukraine. We will replenish these losses what Ukraine has already. But we also see that the massive counter-offensive is not yet there. So we see a couple of brigades moving in different directions, but definitely we don't see still the big tank battalions moving, and we can believe that in these weeks we will see some more movements. But once again, my message to all of you is very simple: do not put any big pressure or extra pressure to Ukrainians. They know what to do. We are helping them, and let them win this war.
What do you think Europe needs to do to ensure that Ukraine gets all the weapons it needs?
To help Ukraine and to make these decisions what are necessary. So at the moment we know that we have formed these brigades in Europe with equipment, with training of the personnel. We will continue that. So we will continue with the personnel training. We will continue with forming the brigade level equipment. So we will continue, and we will do that everything. And when in one moment we will be there, when we can also send the fighter jets, then this definitely will get or will give to Ukraine some extra moves. But anyway, at the moment I believe Ukraine has what they need. And for us it is important also to guarantee the supplement of the spare parts and maintenance. So this is also very, very important at the moment.
I've got two questions, if I may. If you speak about the counter-offensive, what is, from your perspective, the strategic goal? Is it just more intense battle, or what is the goal? And the other question is concerning the US. Do you think the US is too reluctant to grant a clearer path to Ukraine for NATO membership?
First, the goal is very simple: to win this war and to take back all the territories for Ukraine. Of course, it is very, very difficult. We understand that. When we look at the maps, you have seen the maps, how the Russian defense lines are lying in Ukraine. So then definitely it will be very, very difficult for Ukraine to go to the Azov Sea or to go and push through the defense lines of Russia, but definitely they will do that, and then this is the goal, to take back as many territories as they can. Now regarding Ukraine membership in NATO, well, we all understand that President Zelensky said that we cannot talk about the NATO membership as far the war is ongoing. So we all understand that. But on the other hand, we also see that any kind of gray zones what Russia wants to build are not something we would like to see in Europe, and then we will not tolerate that. Which means that the only security guarantee, actual security guarantee for Ukraine is NATO membership. When it's going to be, very difficult to say, because we cannot even say when the war will be over. But it's in our hands to help Ukraine to win this war.
But do you think that assessment is shared in Washington, that there cannot be any gray zone anymore?
I believe that also Washington understands perfectly that no country can stop NATO enlargement. If the NATO members collectively decide to accept someone in NATO, then this is the decision of the NATO members, and no country can avoid that.
Are you disappointed on membership?
Sorry, once again.
What's your message to countries that aren't meeting this 2% target?
Well, my message is very clear. All NATO members made a commitment 2014 in Wales. And this commitment was that in 10 years, all the countries will have 2%. Now we are at war in Europe. And this is the last time and last moment to commit yourself to 2% and even beyond. So, because the gap, as I said, the gap in the last 30 years has been just too big.
On membership, are you disappointed that Germany and the U.S. are not as forward-leaning as they might be on this?
Sorry, once again, because it was...
On membership for Ukraine, are you disappointed that Germany and the U.S. are not as forward-leaning as they could be on this?
Well, once again, on membership, it's a decision of 31 countries, soon 32 countries, and then we all have to be united. One thing what we have to avoid is exactly what Putin wants, that we are separated and we are not unified. But NATO is united, NATO is unified, and then we will do everything to keep that, and then we will be united also in this decision. Thank you very much.
Question about nuclear weapon in Belarus. Okay, later.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Defense Minister of Latvia, I'd like to start by Ukraine. Ukraine's rightful place is in Euro-Atlantic community. Maidan started as a revolution of dignity, and Ukraine has chosen its way to Euro-Atlantic community, and we must support Ukraine in this road to freedom of its choice. That's why Latvia supports Ukraine's accession to NATO whenever it's possible. Today we see that Russia is waging a very brutal and aggressive war against Ukraine, and of course everyone is waiting for very successful Ukraine's counter-offensive. But we must admit it will be long-term process, and we have to support Ukraine not only during this counter-offensive, but as long as it takes. Well, Latvia is a country situated on the eastern flank of NATO, and today we must concentrate on forward defense. For Latvia, it means that we are investing in our defense capabilities. Our defense budget will reach 3% by 2027, but I think that with new defense capability procurements we will reach 3% sooner than 2027. It's evident for us. Well, I'd like to stress that new NATO defense plans are a big step forward, but it means that they must be, we should concentrate on how to fulfill those defense plans, how to execute them. Well, and it means fourth generation, which leads to defense investment pledge. Well, I've told that Latvia is that Latvia will reach 3% sooner than 2027. I hope that it will be NATO, that some other countries will join us in this defense investment pledge steps. But speaking about forward defense concept, we are working together with Canadians on scaling up our NATO battle group till combat capable brigade. It's well on track. Well, thank you.
Why is it important to meet with the defense industry later today?
Defense industry is critical. We must reduce in numbers, and we concentrate on production in numbers. In Latvia, we can make very good prototypes of something, but today we should concentrate on production in numbers. It is critical. Thank you.
Minister, on membership for Ukraine, are you disappointed about the U.S. and Germany's stance on this, that they're not as forward-leaning as they could be?
It will be discussed, so discussions will be held, but as I already said, Latvia supports Ukraine's accession to EU and NATO whenever it is possible. Thank
Nuclear
you.
weapon in Belarus. What do you think about that?
So it's just those three subjects, Stoltenberg and then but yeah, I think the Dutch is she's going to do a little more with some of these stuff. She would wake up, she would like point for the jacket, and it was sort of much of everything. So 1 week, it was like filthy, and they came to the kitchen. I was like, I'm really sorry. It was like, we just need to get washed. And it was disgusting. No, she doesn't care.
Ich will das nicht ausschließen,
Yes, that's a good thing. I mean, this is what I had recently. It was 25 degrees outside. Okay?
Thank you.